Welcome back to the Three Benchwarmers Podcast, where we discuss all things Detroit sports. And for this episode, we're going to be talking about everything from Michigan and Michigan State basketball. Obviously, a big weekend this weekend. We're just recording after that UConn Duke game, which was crazy how it ended. And then go into Tigers opening the opening series, some issues for the Red Wings, and obviously the Pistons are coming back into form a little. I guess we can start with the Tigers, Mark.
Yeah, they've looked pretty good this series. That last game, I mean, no one could get a hit. I think there was only 2 hits total, and Flaherty didn't put in his best performance either. But I think overall a 2-1 series win against the Padres, not a bad team, shows where they're at right now. I mean, to be fair, some of the comments on the TikToks were like, you can't judge it off one game. But I think the series wide, it shows, okay, we have a little bit more depth. I mean, granted, Framber Valdez and Skubal are the top 2 guys. They're the ones where you paid them the money to go in there, and you should be able to get 6 good innings of maybe a run or two, and hope the relievers and closers can, do the job. Offense get a few hits, but I think we should highlight Kevin McGonigal, and I'd like to add a bit to the podcast. It's a very long season, right? Very long Tiger season. There's only so much we can talk about. So we're gonna name this bear based on the top performer of every week. So I think it's only right to name the bear Kevin this week. I think he's earned it. So
Yeah, that is definitely who I would choose. He might be called Kevin for a while if you keep seeing the same thing from him every single week. Yeah, no, great performances from him. Obviously, that last game, not really. And then obviously that's where we go back to the whole. It's a long season. He had 2 good games. Really, only it was really one good game, like total great game. But obviously, the second game he didn't have a hit before he had that clutch single to run in to get in 2 runs, and then obviously yesterday it was not too great. So I guess that's just the story of how baseball works. I'm more interested in seeing how Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter perform after the oblivious weekend that they had this week. It was horrible. Kerry Carpenter was swinging out of his shoes. Also, I guess to add to that list, Javi Baez. He's the first person to use a challenge this ever in the MLB, and obviously he lost it. So that's quite fitting for who he is as a batter. But yeah, no, the batting you're seeing little improvement given McGonigal's introduction to the lineup, but still there are some shades of that end of last season where it seems like no one can get any contact and everyone's just swinging at everything and obviously not getting any contact on that ball.
Yeah, I can't just have one guy who hits the ball. It's just not going to work. I mean, going from 0 to 1 is good, but Skubal pitched really well. Bramber pitched well. I mean, they get to play the Arizona Diamondbacks 3 straight games, I think, and they just got swept. So hopefully they can figure things out. Try to get the rotation down as the
Swept
season.
by the Dodgers, by the way, so I guess that isn't that isn't the
not to begin the
greatest sign
season like
of how
last
bad a
year,
team is. But yeah.
but as you said, Diamondbacks just got swept. We'll be in the back half of the pitching rotation by then. Hopefully they can hold out for a good 2 wins, and then probably back to Skubal, Framber, Flaherty back against the Cardinals in the home opener on Friday. So I think that'll be a very interesting game. I think, both of these series, I think the Tigers should win, maybe 3-0, both, maybe not against the Cardinals, but I think they should get out of this week with at least 4 wins out of the 6. And I don't think that's too crazy to
Yeah.
say.
I
If
think
Kevin the Bear
yeah.
agrees, and Kevin McGonigal is going to single-handedly carry this team for the next until he doesn't get paid by certain someone. But you know it's
Speaking of payments, by the way, he's in a rookie contract for the next 5 years for dirt cheap. So, if the whole organization, we were obviously part of this. The fans that were criticizing the Tigers for not really doing anything to improve the batting. And apparently they knew what they were doing because they got a player that, was someone that we were looking to get without, spending any pieces in terms of like picks, players or money. So having that option is great beyond just just improving our batting. It's the fact that he is worth basically nothing in terms of his contract. So yeah, hopefully he can continue showing up. Um, and it's kind of interesting you guys were saying about the pitching rotation or Mark was. It's gonna be interesting to see what they
I
do
want to see how
because
Verlander looks. I think that's the
Verlander and
question mark on
Mize are
everyone.
like Verlander and Mize are the two starters that are left. Starters as in like what the Tigers announced would be the starters. So who knows who that third game who's gonna pitch on that game? Assuming that Scooble obviously starts in the home opener. Just interesting things to think about because throughout a season you need to keep winning these series. We saw that with the Tigers last year where the entire first 3-4 months their entire goal was just win each series. Doesn't matter if you sweep the series or if you split it 2-1. Um, I think that at one point they didn't lose a single series or they lost one series in a span of 2 months. And obviously that's how they got that big lead, only to
Yeah, the
choke it
only
away.
it's the
Yeah,
Detroit habit to then choke it away.
yeah. But
So we'll get to more
regardless, still
chokers.
having that mentality. So maybe if we do win those two games, the first two games, obviously again, this is all kind of redundant because the baseball season is so long. But if we want to, talk about general trends, if we do win the first two games in a series, why not, do some pitching chaos maybe in the third game just so we can get an extra, rest day for our rotation. Just things to think about. Obviously AJ Hinch has done these things in the past, so this will be interesting to see what he does now.
Can't wait till Keter Montero starts. Anyways, we'll move on to the Lions. I mean, not much news has come out of there, but there is one story that Oleg's wanted to cover on Terrion Arnold, and then I wanted to bring up something after. So just bring the people through what happened there.
Well, so apparently, and this is like the only news, by the way, of the week from the Lions. So I'm like, we might as well talk about it. Terry and Arnold is being investigated, and again, I'm not gonna say too much here because all of this is speculation. But uh,
Allegedly.
allegedly, he was robbed of a lot of materials, including money, guns, and drugs, out of among other things. And as a response to that, him and his friends responded, found the robber, and quote unquote took him hostage. Which I don't really understand how that works, because how you know how can you take a guy hostage when you're the one that got robbed? Anyways, um, with Lions players and doing that stuff, or specifically Lions players from Alabama or SEC
Well,
schools
to
in
be fair,
general.
half of the Lions squad is from Alabama, so like you can't. That's like saying like, okay, what is it with the Eagles and Georgia players? It's like the same thing. But I get what you're trying to say. We had the whole Gambletron thing. That was pretty funny, but it did cost us six weeks of. I think it was year two of Jameson Williams' career because he had the ACL tear the year one, if I'm not mistaken. One of those initial years. He played after that. And then he was also caught in Detroit. He was pulled over by a cop, and the cop was searching him. He says, "Do you have a gun on him?" He's like, "Yeah, it's Detroit." I'm like, I mean, fair enough, but like, I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to see what kind of characters we have in the Lions. I do trust Dan Campbell to, get him in line. I haven't seen much from Gambletron himself recently, so maybe that's a good thing that we're on the right track of keeping everyone in line. This is like I would argue last year of the championship window. Next year we're gonna have to pay a lot of guys, and you never know if not Terry Arnold, Kirby or Branch come back as the same players, especially Kirby because he's not.
If they even come back at all, too,
Yeah,
by the way, like that's
Kirby's
something.
got some permanent damage in his knees.
Yeah,
it's
I don't know. That secondary is looking a little scary, both like in terms of ability and the things they do off the field. I guess it'll be hopefully they get things sorted out and we have at least some sort of depth because otherwise I really don't know we're gonna do to fix it.
It's been a horrible viewing experience the last few years. Just
Yeah,
every
exactly.
deep pass is just caught,
We're on
and they're
like
just
fourth string corners and safeties.
Yep.
like even in the playoffs, could not get a stop against the Commanders. Not one stop except a one turnover. Like there's no punts.
So
And then I
I
did
don't
want to
know.
bring up the loss of Khalif Raymond because apparently very similar offer from Detroit and Chicago, and he chose Ben Johnson over Dan Campbell. Now, I don't know if he thought he'd be better utilized in the Ben Johnson system than he was here, or if that's a more attractive style of play for, more of a gadget type of guy who would be third in line for that position. But, as a replacement, Arizona brought in Greg Dortch, or not Arizona. They brought in Greg Dortch from Arizona. Great pickup. He has great ties to one Drew Petzing, so surely he knows what he's doing. It's kind of a nothing move. I guess you'd rather have a returner than none at all. I remember when the Lions lost Andre Roberts in mid 2010s. That was actually devastating because he was actually like good for about 2 or 3 touchdowns a year. And then, since then we haven't really had like an explosive guy who could do that. So it getting a good returner is just, I don't know, I think it's an underrated thing.
Instead of Khalif Raymond, I guess you saw how Khalif Raymond was probably one of the best returners in the league, at least from last season. So I don't know. It's a role that I think more people can fulfill than the amount of people that can fulfill a wide receiver three. So I don't think it's that serious. Maybe we start seeing Isaac Tesla being utilized a little more because of this. I don't think there's any problems in our skill positions on offense though. Like regardless, it's really the O line and our corners that need to be figured out, and the fact that we didn't really sign that many people that could have an impact from free agency was kind of concerning because you normally would leave. I guess it's fair to leave one or the other to the draft and like position wise, but if you have both, like you're not going to be unless I guess they have been in the past, but you saw what happens when you play a fifth round draft pick or you start a fifth round draft pick on your O line or as a corner guarding like Puka Nakua, for instance. Like that's just not going to
Yeah,
go
I mean,
well.
people forget that Terrion wasn't exactly the best his rookie year. He was a highly touted out of Alabama, and then he comes in. It's hard for rookie corners in their first year. Even Jeff Okuda, I mean, he never figured it out, but I mean, his
Yeah,
first year was rough as well.
just must have bad scouting at cornerback because I mean Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell were in the same draft, so and we went 0 for 2 at least as of now.
Well, Cooper DeJean was there was another reason why people didn't pick him, but we can on top of that um go go no, but really it's like our O line for instance, like we have we had Tate Ratledge plug holes last year, and he obviously didn't do too well, and he was a rookie, so I really don't. I'm concerned. See, I'm not saying this is the end of the world because we've seen picks go well in the past for Brad Holmes, but if it's anything like last season, it's not a good sign.
Listen, I'm not
I really
entirely worried about his ability to pick players in the trenches, but his secondary and linebacking to an extent. I mean, he found Derek Barnes and Malcolm Rodriguez, but they're not like
Well,
star players or like Jack Campbell too. All right,
Jack Campbell's definitely an all.
Campbell, yeah.
yeah, never mind. I'll shut up. Secondary, I'll just leave it at that. Has not been his strong suit.
Well, Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph.
Cornerback,
Yeah,
cornerback
there, there you go. That's
has
what we
not been his strong suit.
got.
Anyways, that's enough for the Lions this week. Hopefully, there's some more good news that comes out, and not Terrion Arnold holding someone hostage. We'll move on to some, surprisingly good news in the Pistons. They've actually looked like a good, competent team, even without Cade. And I would argue, or some would argue, that they've actually looked better, which is surprising. Because Cade, he was the one who, the assist, primary ball handler, blah blah blah. Here's this that turned Duren into an all-star. But you look into Cade's stats, and he actually has a surprising amount of turnovers as well to go along with everything else. It's a high usage rate, high turnover player, which we've seen in the past that it could work. I mean, Harden, Westbrook, those type of guys, but he's not to that extent of usage rate or turnovers. But it's spreading out the responsibility of bringing the ball up to Dennis Jenkins, to Asar every once in a while, to just whoever gets the ball. And then I think the first real test was this Lakers game, and they looked great. I mean, they kept it close the whole time. Lakers were at full strength, and they were able to get out of that game. So, I mean, this team has just looked great. That Hawks loss is a little disappointing considering it's in overtime. And then you beat the T-Wolves without Ant, so it's hard to say what happens there. But they do play later or to end the season again. Cade is supposed to come back sometime before the playoffs. I know he has the same agent as CJ McCollum, who had the same injury. One of 3 active players to have had a collapse lung twice. CJ McCollum had his lung collapse twice, actually, let it be known. And he's playing. So I really hope Cade comes back in time. But there's also that whole debacle with, the 65-game rule and how it's being changed because of Cade's injury. What do you guys think about that? Or, the debate around it?
I think it's a good rule. People are gonna criticize it right now, but realistically, 3 years ago when that rule didn't exist, people would skip games intentionally and not play to rest or pretend that they're injured, and they'd still get rewarded for it. So I think it's a good rule, good introduction. I don't see. I mean, literally a month ago, we were happy about this rule and saying Cade's gonna win MVP because of that same rule. And then because our player gets hurt, now all of a sudden it's a bad rule.
Yes.
I don't think that's fair.
That's how it works.
And yeah, I guess in Detroit, the Detroit sports rule, that's how it works. But
Listen,
yeah,
if the rule favors me, it's a good rule. If it doesn't, it's a bad rule. I mean, it's that
okay. Well,
it's that simple.
yeah, that's the argument. That's the argument for it. Okay, if you guys want to say that, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with the rule. Some of the load management was horrible. I mean, you go pay $300 to see LeBron play the Pistons or whoever, and then he just doesn't show up or his streak closed.
Yep. That happened twice to me. I actually went to 2 Pistons games back in the day. Literally, this was when I was in middle school, I think, or early high school. And both games we were playing Cleveland Cavaliers, and guess what? LeBron didn't play in either one of them. So, and it's not like he was injured either. He just did not show up for both games.
I've
So
seen
I had to watch
LeBron live
I had to
twice,
watch
so
J.R. Smith and Kyrie Irving
yeah, you're just
destroy our weak team by 30 points both games. Um, no, but I guess going back to what you were saying about the Pistons, I'm gonna bring up an analogy here. Let me know if this is a good analogy. So you know how this is on Cade, by the way. So Cade is out, the Pistons obviously performing better.
yeah.
You know how in class, right? You have a friend group in class, and you have the smart kid, the guy that performs really well and does well in all tests and knows everything. And you're doing homework with them, and you're doing it with them, but really he's just doing it for you and kind of copying off his answers, right? And so you take that first midterm exam, and you do horrible because you don't know what you're doing because you rely so much on that one person. And then all of a sudden you can't, that person drops the class, for instance, or whatever, moves schools. And now you actually have to do the homework. So you start studying and actually doing stuff. And then when you have to take your next exam, you get a better grade and you pass. I think it's the same exact thing. The Pistons were way too reliant on Cade for any sort of scoring whatsoever. I mean, every single possession he would touch the ball and just huck up shots. Why was his field goal percentage so low? Because he was the only one taking any shots whatsoever. So, this might be a good thing when Cade comes back, and maybe JB Bickerstaff will sort of
Now,
focus.
here's the only part of your analogy that falls apart here. It's not the offense of the Pistons that's gotten better. They've actually gotten much better defensively since he's been out, and that's why they've been able to stay in these games.
I mean, you saw that Pelicans game. For
I mean, yeah,
instance,
Dennis
right?
Jenkins put up 30 career high against I think it
Kevin
was the
Huerter,
Lakers.
the man you've been slandering for the past
He
month.
still deserves it. He had one good game. He's literally still a terrorist. Literally still
Pretty.
a soldier of whatever insert
Pretty well
terrorist group
last
here
year.
sent to the Pistons to ruin them.
I don't know.
Don't
He
ever
played
praise
decent.
Kevin Herter.
He's doing better than Jaden Ivey is at this moment. So
To
It's
be
not very
fair,
hard to do
Jaden
that.
Ivey fell into a rabbit hole of mental health issues that he claims he doesn't. He's on his Kanye downward spiral right now.
Doing an Ernest Hausman, so
Someone
let
needs
him be it.
someone needs to check on this man. Someone needs to get him some, an accountability buddy. Just, make sure he has someone. We don't want anyone spiraling down a path of I don't know, bad path. Also,
That's what
Chicago.
happens when you get drafted in a team with Killian Hayes. It just goes downhill from there.
Who is the reason that Jaden
Hey.
Ivey is the way he is? Because I don't know if I've said this on the podcast, but it has come to my attention that Killian Hayes had relations with Monty Williams' daughter. And I don't know if there was nepotism involved or if it was something else, but I don't know. Maybe Killian Hayes was simply the better player, and we all didn't see it. And Monty Williams, the however many like $50 million coach, just saw talent that I didn't. Like I saw a French kid who was just garbage at the sport, but he saw his son-in-law. I don't know, conflict of interest for sure needed to be disclosed. There's definitely like ethical violations in that aspect too. I mean, like jump in if I'm wrong, but I think that somehow has to violate some ethical code in the like NBA Players Association.
I don't know.
I don't know, man. This is all hearsay, so I'm not gonna comment on it.
If I was the CP of the board, and I was the one in charge of all of it, like there would have to be something about this.
You have to prove it first.
Yeah.
Anyways, all alleged. I mean, this is all what we've heard online.
Do a Justin Spiro and start investigating it, Mark. You should try. See where it gets you. Anyways,
I did hold on. I did see one more thing on the Pistons. I did want to touch on this. Someone wanted to compare. You know how Sean Livingston has never missed a mid-range shot in his life, right? Like this is common knowledge. Someone is saying that Tobias Harris fadeaway mid-range is on the same level as that. And to which I say, look at the end of the Hawks game. Look at the game-winning shot he hucked up. He airballed it. He airballed that shot to lose them that game in overtime. The literal shot that he's known for.
It was a pass. Jalen Duren got the ball from that and should have scored. It was a pass.
It was a pass?
It was going to be an assist. It was a pass. It was a pass.
Anyways, I'm not hating on the Tobias Harris mid-range. That's kind of been carrying the offense since Cade's been down. We go Tobias Harris mid-range followed by Dennis Jenkins just driving to the hole and then the occasional Duncan Robinson 3 just thrown in there with some Jalen Duren.
Karis LeVert's deep bomb threes that never.
Karis LeVert, he's a part-time player. He's literally I don't know. He misses every other game just for the love of the game. He cannot be having this many ankle sorenesses, knee soreness, something or other. Brother, get a brace, get a massage, get on the court, bro. I know we don't want you on the court, but if you're getting paid, we need bodies right now. I mean, the lineup is dying. Asar, I mean, I would rather see him than Kevin Herter, and that's the point. That's the point I'm at right now.
No, that's a bad take, Mark. Kevin Herter is monumentally better than Karis LeVert.
Listen, no, I would rather see Karis LeVert spotted up in the corner because he's not going to shoot 25% from three. He's going to shoot 31, which is a higher percentage. Still bad. I don't know what Kevin Herter's shooting, but he has not been good at all with the Pistons. Someone go Basketball Reference Kevin Herter with the Pistons. I need to know this 3-point percentage because it cannot be higher than 30%. It cannot be higher.
Well, okay, Karis LeVert's is 32, but he hasn't made a three since the Wizards game, 2 weeks ago.
He also hasn't played since then, probably, so,
He has. He's played in 4 of the 5 games since, and he's gone 0 for 10 from 3.
Okay.
So.
Kevin Herter had one of those stretches, too.
Let's see. Let's compare that. I don't know, 1 for 4, 4 from 7. He's made a couple of threes. He had that one game.
Yeah,
But
even a blind man finds a stick every once in a while.
Herder and Levert drew basically the same percentage from three if you average their entire
It's like
seasons.
garbage versus trash. Like this is the comparison that we're having right now.
Well, that's what happens when Cade is out. You gotta talk about these things.
Honestly, just put in Marcus Sasser. He did start when I think Asar initially went down or Cade went down. He was starting.
Yeah.
Young guy, give him a chance. He hasn't shown, he can still evolve past garbage or trash and go to like recyclables. Like that's all we need on the bench right now. We don't need like a good star. I mean, we have Isaiah Stewart who's also been out during the stretch, let it be known. So I mean, if when
Yeah.
he comes back, the team will look better. Okay, Austin, what did you find?
He's shooting
I
23.8%.
literally what I said, bro. Literally what I said.
Who is Kevin Herder?
Yes, bro. Honestly, a
This kid is-
terrorist. 23.8. I've gone on so many Kevin Herter rants. I'm not even going to do it. I'm not even going to do it. You know what I'm going to say.
For the Pistons. For the Pistons. This
Yes,
kid
and that's
is-
all I care about. He was like 31% with the Bulls before that. He was supposed to come here and like find his shooting touch. What'd you find? Like a stone on the ground every once in a while? Brother, pack it up. Head to Israel. Head to like go join Patrick Beverly. Go join like Frankie Fiddler in like China or wherever the hell he is. Join them, bro.
Trey Burke, yeah.
Anyways.
Your star player. Where does he play, Mark? The Oakland man himself.
He's
Kendrick Nunn.
He's
He's
in the
okay.
Euro League, bro. He's the
Yeah.
best player in the Euro League. They're scared of him there. Never
3 years
disrespect
ago, yeah.
Never disrespect Kendrick Nunn. All right, we'll move on on a bit of a sadder note on the Red Wings. We had three games, right? And I thought of the games they were going to lose that it was going to be to the Sabres, but they beat them. They did beat them. I don't know what voodoo magic was on the ice in Buffalo, by the way. It was a good beating. I mean, to be fair, the Sabres could not stop giving up penalties, power plays. But to the Red Wings' credit, they were converting. They were converting, and that's all you had to do. I mean, late in the third, someone on the Sabres got a double minor to get himself in the box for 4 minutes. I mean, he I think hooked him and made him bleed from his mouth. I don't know if it was blood because that would have been instant 5, but I don't know. He got a double minor, and the Red Wings were able
Double
to.
minor. We're not international hockey, Mark.
That's what he got. He got
And
4 minutes in the box, bro. He got
Yeah,
two
4
minutes.
If there's blood, it's 4 minutes a double minor in the NHL. It's not 5. 5 minutes is in international play. So just
The Olympics was fresh on my mind, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to apologize for that. But yeah, they do go out and win this game. I mean, one of the goals was fraudulent because it was open net, but we take those. We take those. And then they go out and lose to the Senators in a close game. I mean, this isn't in order. I'm just talking about the week in general. That's a bad loss. I mean, they're one of those teams that are fighting for that wild card playoff spot, so that's a bad one. And then you would think you go and beat the Flyers, who aren't, peak form this year, and they were just never in that game. I mean, we put it on for a split second, and they got scored on immediately, so, had to turn it off, and then nothing happened. So, honestly, I don't know what we can say about the Red Wings that we haven't said already. There's just an energy around this team that likes to choke. Start the season hot, and then just literally forget how to skate. I don't know. I mean, they even tried to make a move. Not granted, it was just like appease the fans type of move in Justin Folk, but what do you guys think this team needs to get over this? I don't know. Do they need to bring out the whiskey bath in like Little Caesars, bro?
No, they just need to replace their entire team. That's the only thing that'll help now. It's Larkin needs to leave for his own sake. That's all I will say on that topic because seems like the only player that is actually trying at the end of these seasons at all. And I mean, granted, he is the captain, so he might have a little influence on the other players, but still, it's very just not. It's very predictable. Like it's kind of like last season with the Tigers when the Cleveland Guardians were approaching them and taking away that lead that the Tigers had in the division. You just knew the Tigers would choke. It's the same thing this season. Like the Red Wings are realistically like 1 point behind getting into the playoffs. Um, at least, yeah, yeah. They're a game behind the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are 2 points ahead of them. So given that they win that game in hand, they're in the playoffs. From a tiebreaker perspective, but I don't have a single ounce of hope for them to do so. Because we've seen this in the last 2 seasons where they end up, having to rely on other teams to not win games, and those teams win games, and the Red Wings don't win games until it's the very end of the season, and you can't control anything at all. So that's when they start winning, apparently, when it literally doesn't matter.
Alex, do you think it's because
So
down the stretch they start to focus more on like the top tier teams? Because down the stretch they beat the Avalanche, they beat the Sabres.
no, it has nothing to do with that. That's not what the case was last year or the year before that. They just lose to everybody because they feel like losing. I think the
Good take.
Sabres game was just you know, not part of the pattern, not part of the common pattern that we've seen these last 3 years, and that's just hockey for you. I mean, we'll go into more hockey right after this with the Michigan State. I want to quickly talk about that, but on the note of the Red Wings, like you're consistently seeing them underperforming against teams that they should be beating, and then if they do beat a team, it's because they get lucky. They get a lucky bounce. The other team, has a bad day in terms of giving up power plays, or anything of the sort. So, like the next 3, 4 games, maybe even 5 games, those are all very easy losses. I think the Red Wings might get 2 points from the next 5 games, if even 2 points. Like that's where my head's at right now, and it doesn't matter if they're playing at the Penguins, at the Flyers, who they just lost to, at New York against the Rangers, and against the Minnesota Wild, who they've gotten destroyed by a
And
couple
they
times
they
this
beat the
season.
Wild this year, no?
No,
Or did they lose a close one?
they choked away a game, and then they lost by a lot against them. So
They can
if you remember,
they can beat the
like
Flyers.
Kristaps scored a hat trick or something. So,
Yeah. Well, just bring us on some good news about hockey because, I don't want to keep thinking about how the Red Wings are torrentially downpouring their way out of the playoffs after being top of the division.
well,
So,
well, good news depends on what team you
oh,
support.
sorry, it is
But
subjective.
yeah, but I guess I'll start with the whole topic of hockey and unpredictability. Michigan State yesterday in the elite, what is the Elite Eight of hockey, or the regional finals, choked, for lack of a better word, against Wisconsin, who is a team that they beat 4 times in the regular season, um, and uh, just got embarrassed in the last literally 5 minutes. It was 5 minutes because they scored in the first 30 seconds of overtime. Wisconsin, I mean, to win that game. So, man, that's crazy. Like that just shows how unpredictable hockey can be. That shows why the Red Wings beat the Buffalo Sabres in the midst of what at this point, like 10 game losing side. I know they didn't lose 10 games in a row, but it's the last 10 games have been absolutely, they've
It's a
played
skid
absolutely
is how we
horribly.
refer to those.
A skid, right? But it's not. They didn't lose 10 games in a row. It's just a skid. So, um, yeah, I guess that is kind of a representation of what can occur. And then on the other hand, Michigan today ended up winning their regional matchup and are in the Frozen Four. Uh,
Toughest name
so
in sports, I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, but they also almost ended up choking the game away. They're up 4-1 against Minnesota Duluth, uh, and
Powerhouse.
they yeah, and then they ended up conceding two, and it's 4-3. Ivan Kovic made a very big save at the end to keep the game 4-3 and not 4-4 and go into overtime. So again, I mean, hockey's just crazy. If you guys aren't watching, I know today there's an exception because of the Duke UConn game, uh, but when you have a chance, you guys have to watch some college hockey. I mean, it's crazy. Obviously, last year Western Michigan won. Now another team from Michigan in Michigan. have a chance to keep the streak alive and win the state another national championship.
Yeah, we've been over that Michigan is just a powerhouse in hockey and college and in the majors. So I think a Michigan team alone could have filled out or players affiliated with Michigan could have filled out the Olympic roster, at least one line of it. So, I mean, there's a lot of talent in the state here. We'll stay in state, but different sport in basketball. Michigan basketball, they had, I mean, they played who was in front of them, and they beat who was in front of them. I think that's the best way to put it. Alabama started off really hot, couldn't miss a shot. Tennessee was just straight BTA, two halves, probably in the most boring game I've seen all year, which is, sad because they put up 95, but there was just so many stops of action, and Michigan never looked in doubt of losing that game, which, some could find entertaining. Like, I was texting Olix about this. He's like, I'd rather have that than a close game, like sweating a game, which I guess is fair. But, it's March. You expect some sort of the unexpected. So to see the expected happen could also be unexpected in a way. I mean, considering we thought this was going to be like a whole chalk bracket, all of the 1 seeds would make it, and now I guess it's only Arizona and Michigan. I think realistically, Alex and I were talking about this. Arizona's the last hurdle for Michigan before they have a good chance against whoever comes out of the other side of the bracket.
Yeah.
Right, and I guess I'll say something quickly before I can get to Austin. Michigan already beat Illinois, and the way UConn played, even these last 2 games, I don't know who, like, I'd honestly play either one of those 2 teams, and I would have a very, very high confidence in beating.
I want
either one,
Illinois
because
if I'm a Michigan fan.
they honestly didn't play their best against. They didn't play their best against Michigan State, and they definitely didn't play their best against Duke. And they had like a 5-minute burst in both games where they were able to, in the case of Michigan State, extend their lead and then never give it up. And then in the case of Duke, come back. And also, it wasn't really. I would criticize Duke more so than UConn for that comeback. But man, like, I thought we were going to play Duke in the final, but all of a sudden, it seems like the final, like the national championship game, is next Saturday at 8:30 p.m. against Arizona. Obviously, I can't guarantee that. March is March, but like that's what it feels like. People are really. I'm telling you, people in this coming week will be saying that game is the natty. Like that, whoever wins that game will win the national championship.
Yeah, I mean, as of now, Illinois has had a pretty favorable path, so I don't know how to feel about them. But UConn, it's just probably the one team I wouldn't want to play whatsoever. Just Dan Hurley has some sort of magic going on when it
Just in
comes to
March.
March. He's never lost past the second round in his life, so I don't know if that's something you want to face. But this team's definitely not as good as it used to be, so I don't know. I think Illinois could even take care of them. But as far as Arizona goes, it's definitely the 2 best teams and have been most of the season, in my opinion. So I think that's really as a preview of the Natty. So I mean, Illinois or UConn could. I mean, I just saw Duke choke with a 99% win rate or win percentage. So you
Don't
never
even
know.
talk about the terrorism that Cade and Boozer did at the end of that game. Unbelievable stuff, bro. Screw you, Cade and Boozer. That's all I'm going to say. And I just wanted to say that if I'm a Michigan State fan, the person who I despise the most right now is Juwan Howard, which may seem a little convoluted, but Terrace Reed bent them over and just had his way with that roster. Now, you're wondering, what does Juwan Howard have to do with this? He was part of one of those recruiting classes, and then, a terrorism class of coaching later, Terrace Reed decides, maybe I want to go somewhere where Juwan Howard isn't. And he chose UConn. And at the end of the day, that came back, and somehow it's still, he still somehow ended up beating Michigan State without a Michigan jersey on. So, like, is that, that far off of a take that Juwan Howard is the cause of UConn winning these two matchups?
I guess I'll correct you, Mark. He didn't leave Juwan Howard. He left with Juwan Howard because he left when Juwan Howard got fired. So maybe Michigan's 8-24 season helped helped Michigan State lose in 2026.
And potentially help Michigan win the
Yeah.
title this year.
And that I think is more legitimate because that season alone helped Michigan acquire Dusty May. So if you want to look at it from that way, go ahead, I guess. It's quite comedic
Listen,
and
and here's the
ironic.
thing.
It's not-
Terrace Reed, literally every time I glance away for half a second against Duke, against Michigan State, this guy was just on the line, and I don't know why. He was like a 58% shooter at the line. And somehow every time I look up at the screen, he is shooting a free throw. I don't know if he's just that much bigger and more physical than everyone else. I don't know if that's what like 2 years under Dan Hurley can do to you, but like
I don't know. I mean, he had 26 today, so and 20. He had like 20 over 20 rebounds that other game. But I don't know. I think against Illinois, it might be pretty tough though.
yeah, they have
They
the matchup.
they run their zone where the shortest guy is 6'6", so it might be pretty tough. But I don't know.
And they got their rotation of the big men there. So honestly, I think Florida could have been a good matchup for them if they didn't get Bennett Sturtz, and that whole quadrant, that whole was just unpredictable. That is where the march occurred this year, other than like Texas and Tennessee. I guess Tennessee. I mean, yeah, they did beat Virginia because Jakari Smith airballed a three. Honestly, felt for him, but like it was wide open. He didn't even touch rim. It's March is so crazy because the better team doesn't always win, and that's what makes it fun. Like Michigan, they have a whole week to prepare for Arizona, and I think we're looking ahead too far and somehow overlooking Arizona. I know you guys are saying like this is the game to look into. We're saying once we get past it, but we're forgetting to realize that Arizona was that team for 99% of the year. They haven't gone through any major injuries in this tournament. It's going to be, Arizona versus Michigan minus LJ Kaysen, which they've shown they can play without. But you would much rather have LJ Kaysen than not. So, how do you guys think that Michigan matches up against this Arizona team? Because, as you said, this is probably the national championship. Like, winner of this goes on.
Well, if they play like they did today, I'm going into that game very confident. If they told me that, if some figure told me that they would play like they did today, I'd be quite confident. Because I don't see how any team is stopping that offense when that ball is moving around the arc like it was today. I mean, they literally got Charlie May open and he knocked one down towards the end of the game. That's how even their bench players were contributing to that.
Bench
offense.
is bench.
But right, exactly, like Oscar Goodman and company. But yeah, I mean, that's really what it comes down to because there's no team that can beat Michigan if they play like that. Not at all. Today was the same way they played against Gonzaga and Auburn and all those teams to start off the season. Now, if they go back to playing like they did against Howard in the first half, like a Purdue, like the obviously any game in the Big Ten tournament, even like they played against Duke, then that's a different story. Then I think it's a little more of a 60-40, 70-30 in favor of Arizona because Arizona is just so consistent. And I think that's their strength because you kind of know what to expect from Arizona. You don't know what to expect from Michigan. So I think that's the real where the balance of game really hangs.
Yeah, I mean Arizona's gonna match the size pretty equally, so it's just
Tennessee was larger than Michigan and like large portions of the game today. So
Yeah, at the beginning of that game.
larger, but I mean there's still been no one as tall as Mara on the court, so Krivas is the exact same size, and Koa Pete is a lottery pick, so I think it's a little bit different than Tennessee, but Tennessee also couldn't shoot to save their life, so
yeah,
And they were getting the
Arizona
offensive
doesn't
rebounds to get, Tennessee was getting their offensive
Arizona doesn't
rebounds.
shoot, by the way. So
Yeah, they're like
Braden Breeze is definitely also in the top 15 probably.
Arizona's like 300th in 3-pointers attempted, but they have the size, they have the talent to go inside. So they're like, why not use it? And you know what? They've been the best in the country doing that. And here's another thing, right? Michigan has been shooting, I would say, their average self from three. If they can continue to do that, maybe get a few more to go through, I think that could swing the game. But what I really wanted to talk about as well was Adai Mara, right? I don't think we talk about his foul troubles early in these games nearly enough, because he will get 2 fouls early like he did against Tennessee in 5 minutes. Now he has to sit out, and thankfully they were winning this game for Michigan's sake, so he could come in and out and then could like take an extended rest, and it's not going to ruin them. But if he gets 2 fouls early in this game, that could swing it. It's something he's done far too often. Dusty's had to put him on the bench to save him for later in the game, and down the stretch he's unplayable because he can't shoot the free throw. That's what we talked about at the beginning of this year. So honestly, this comes down to, can Adai Mara alter a shot without fouling? Straight up in the air. You are 7'3". You don't have to block every shot. Just put your hands like this. No one is getting past you, all right? I know you're not 7'6" like Wembanyama or whatever, and you're not going to get 8 blocks. I mean, I don't, but just...
Where are you getting that number from?
2K. A little 2K game. But, hands straight up in the air, verticality, they cannot call a foul. Just stay on the court. You don't have to block every shot. You're good in the post offensively, too. You give them another mix-up option. You can go right or left with your hooks. Just stay on the court. I think Adai Mara staying on the court is priority number 1 for Dusty May in teaching that group of guys on what to do against Arizona.
I think that's a good point, Mark. Except if Michigan, because obviously you just said that was the issue today. Adai Mara not fouled out, but got 2 fouls early on, and they had to take him out. But Morez Johnson, like Nate Ament today, who was considered a lottery pick to start off the season, or high of mid first round draft pick in the NBA, had 7 points and shot way below 50% from the field today. Against who he was matched up against in Morez Johnson most of the game. So if you see Morez and Yaxel guard the interior like they did today, you don't really need Adai Mara to perform at his best. Maybe obviously he needs to be in the game more so than he needed to be today, because Arizona's much better. But the one thing that makes me a little more confident and comfortable with this game is that Arizona doesn't shoot a lot from three. And the only time we've really seen Michigan struggle is when they had a team that, had 2 or 3 shooters that, could stretch the floor. Whether it be against Wisconsin, Ohio State, Purdue, even Duke. I mean, Duke, obviously their primary focus wasn't attacking from the 3, but they had 4 guys that could shoot the 3 well, and obviously that led to a lot of space being given up interiorly, where Duke could dominate more because it was obviously Mara versus the entire world in that game. It would have felt like. So if Michigan can prevent Arizona getting hot from 3, which is very possible because Arizona doesn't get hot from 3, and really lock in on defending the paint, there is a big chance that Arizona doesn't score, their average amount of points that they score a game. And if that's the case, we already saw what Michigan's offense can do against any team. So,
yeah, I mean, we also haven't really seen a bad. Besides 1 week of the season, Arizona hasn't looked bad a single time. So
they were also missing Koa Pete, though.
They also the teams they played were Iowa State, who lost to Tennessee, and obviously you saw how Tennessee played today. They played Houston, which obviously, like, the Big 12 hasn't performed, besides Arizona, hasn't performed up to their standards or what they were expecting to. Houston scored like 50 points against Illinois, and Illinois is one of the lower end defenses in the Big 10. So, like, Kansas too lost against St. John's. So, their big 12 teams that were supposedly main contenders with Arizona have all crashed out of the tournament. So, they only had only Arizona. Arizona was the only team in the Elite Eight from the Big 12. So I know, Austin, you were very complimentary of that conference going into the tournament, but it really them and the SEC didn't really step up their game. Especially in the second week.
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw on the eye test against Purdue, it's a completely different level of a team. Like they literally destroyed them in the second half when they actually started playing well. So I don't know.
Michigan did the same thing against Purdue in the first half at Mackey. So I think
Yeah, but then they
Arizona.
also just lost to them too and got dominated in
Yeah,
the
but
game.
that's what I was saying to begin this conversation. I'm saying it really depends what version of Michigan comes out today. If it's the version that Michigan the Michigan that played against Tennessee today, or even against Bama or St. Louis, if it's the version of Michigan that we saw in these last three games, then I'm more confident. Now, if we go back to that form that we had in the Big Ten tournament and that first game, then that's a different story. So again, and Arizona is going to be Arizona.
I think you made a good point about this is a good matchup for the Wolverines because they don't have to guard the three and their specialty is guarding inside. I'm not saying they're a bad perimeter defense, but they have the three shot blockers, Yaxel, Morez, Adai. They can hold it down in the paint. And if that's where Arizona does their damage, then so be it. Make them beat you from three. Make them beat you in a way that they don't usually beat teams. I'm sure they can shoot the three, but, show them. I think that's
Well,
Michigan's win condition.
at that point, Michigan has the best 2 point defense in the entire country statistically, and this is going up against teams with two bigs like Purdue and Michigan State. Obviously, Purdue one game that wasn't the case, but they played Purdue twice. One of those games obviously counts towards the stats. Michigan State they played twice.
Illinois,
They
they
played
played.
Illinois. These are and they're really didn't let these teams besides again that Purdue game, which going back to it, if they play like they did against Purdue, they're not going to win. But generally speaking, they've played really great teams and somehow some way and great teams that have great interior offenses. And somehow, some way, they have had the best interior defense in the entire country for the entire season really. So, um, I think stats speak more than eye tests. Um, Now, is that to say that the eye test won't be correct? No, but if you're facing a team or rather, if you're Arizona and you're facing a team that has the best 2 point defense in the country, you're going to do what any other team that plays Michigan tries to do and spread the floor a little more. And we haven't really seen Arizona do that too often. So, again, it might work because they're a great team, but that's something that we haven't seen from them yet.
Yeah. And on following the national championship is when the transfer portal opens for basketball officially. Technically, from what I've heard, you're not allowed to talk to people in the portal until after the game. However, we all know that that's not the case. We know that Dusty, we know that Izzo are talking to guys. Izzo's not retiring. He had a speech after one of these games about retirement. He said, "What would I do instead?" I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, it's clearly something that he loves. So, he's got a great recruiting class coming in as well. It's interesting to see if Izzo will do anything at all. I think there will be some guys who transfer out. Maybe Kurtang is one of the guys to leave in the portal. And then Michigan's going to have to replace some talent too. Yaxel's going to go. And then a lot of the seniors as well. And then you're not going to have LJ Kaysen next year. We don't know about Elliot Cadell. I'm sure he would stay after this
Like
year.
Noah's coming back, Trey McKinney's coming back, Oscar Goodman's coming back. Those players have already confirmed that they're coming back. But
But yeah,
yeah,
there's roster turnover is inevitable. Oakland is retaining, I think, a whole three players from their entire roster going into this because Isaac Garrett's in the portal. I think four of their starters were seniors, and Mashore is actually coming back because he was a starter to begin the year and then he tore his ACL. So in college basketball, it's no longer about recruiting the high schoolers, especially when you're in a lower part of D1. It's not about recruiting the high schoolers. It's about finding guys from teams even below you I mean, to be fair, Oakland did get Deuce Hamilton as a big name. So, I mean, that's all I can say on that. But I think that'll be interesting to talk about next week, considering both teams, big markets, big basketball schools as of recently. So, yeah. And then last thing I want to talk about, this will be the last time for about a month because, whole situation in the Middle East. Let me tell you a story about the F1, right? We're in Japan. Very nice place. Suzuka's maybe not the best place for racing. They have another circuit there called Fuji, which would be better for racing as in overtaking and whatnot in racing. So anyways, we're in Suzuka. A lot of drivers love this track. Kimi Antonelli, he's 19. He started in first, and then his, as per usual, he starts in first, fades to fourth, and then the Mercedes is just so much faster than everyone else that he catches up. But, I just wanted to highlight a few guys. We'll start with the Detroit ones. I'm repping the Red Bull today, so can't forget about them. I'd like to give props for Aston Martin for finishing a race, even if it was a lap down. Cadillac, they both finished the race. One person on the lead lap, one a lap down. So, you get what you get. Granted, there was a safety car, so, Valtteri Bottas was even able to unlap himself, and then he got relapped. So, let that also be there. Max Verstappen, the Red Bull Lord himself, just, hates these cars, and he's low-key just a hater as of recently. So, he even raced in a different racing series, but he won that race, but was disqualified for using too many sets of tires, which is just crazy. But, he finished 8th. So he's the Detroit F1 performer of the session. Liam Lawson in 9th. Isaac Hadjar in 12th. Arvid Limland in 14th. He kind of got cucked by the safety car, but it's okay. But other than that, the only thing I'd like to say that I'd also like to add on to this race was that McLaren finally started 2 guys. Oscar Piastri finally had a race, and in his only race this year, he finished 2nd. So, this championship could look very different by the end of the year. It's basically like they have a month now to develop their cars and just whole new, figure out what's working with these batteries, what's not. Does Lando get an 18th battery for the year? Is he good with his 14th? It's a whole thing. I mean, these new power units, these new regulations are just crazy. The FIA also has to find a way to, mediate this whole battery issue. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens over this break. That's just one last thing that we have to talk about for about a month. I mean, Saudi Arabia is a very good track, very interesting track. A lot of action that happens there, but I don't know. I think the safety of the drivers and the fans is paramount to everything else, as what I'll leave it at. And then with that, we're out of topics to talk about for this week's episode. Like and subscribe. Check out all of the links. They will be on screen. Follow us on Spotify as well. We will find the Three Benchwarmers on there. And if you have anything you'd want us to talk about, make sure to leave those comments below. Even on the clips, we read all of those. So make sure to tell us what you want to see. Maybe sometimes what you don't want to see. Maybe spam 10
We've got a lot of those.
And they're helpful, Maybe spam 10 comments on one video because you're really mad at a take. But, yeah, until next time, guys.